Make sure you're pushing your buttons, please.
Sign on. There you go.
You got that? Yeah, you were at the toggle.
Yeah, I'm always on it. It wasn't. Yeah, thank you.
I thought you were going to say it's Cinco de Mayo.
No.
All right. Commissioner Dotson,
Present.
Commissioner Goings,
Present.
Commissioner Dietrich,
Also present.
Commissioner Hernandez,
Haven't heard from him.
Commissioner Rowland,
Present.
Commissioner Porter,
Present.
Commissioner Amos,
She's excused.
Commissioner Hunt,
Present.
Commissioner Bianchi,
Present.
and Commissioner Watkins.
Present.
All right, we have a quorum.
All right. Would you guys please join me in a pledge of allegiance?
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Okay. Everybody look at the agenda. Can I get a approval on the agenda, please?
Motion to pass.
Cheryl,
Second, Goings.
all in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Okay. Approval of the minutes from March 3rd, 2026. They were sent in the email. Could I get a approval for that too?
I make a motion to approve the minutes.
Goins, John?
Second.
Second who?
Either one.
Either one. You pick.
Okay. I'll go over here to my right this time, Hunt. Okay, thank you. All in favor?
Aye.
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 Okay, no, this is approved. Any citizens' comments?
We have no citizens' comments.
Okay, thank you. Old business. The first one is cemeteries, Commissioner Hunt.
Thank you, Rick. We had a work day at Sage Chapel on Saturday morning, and this was the second work day that the VFW post has held. We had a lot of volunteers there helping to clean up. Additionally, our very own Rick Dotson was the master of ceremonies, as 2 plaques were unveiled, one for the National Register of Historic Places and the second one for the O'Fallon Register of Historic Places. The mayor also spoke briefly, as did Mr. and Mrs. Stevenson, 98 and 100 years young. So that was good to see them out. Everybody in attendance was appreciative of the efforts of the VFW, the city, and the Historic Preservation Committee. That's it.
Thank you, Mr. Hunt. I did reach out to the VFW because we didn't get very many pictures. I know the city had taken pictures and videotaped everything, but they had a professional photographer out there, and I'm supposed to get those pictures from that photographer coming up so we can put those in our files, and I can share them on multimedia too. Okay, Education Committee, Commissioner Rowland.
The actual Education Committee is at a standstill because we've had a problem with trying to get people involved. But I've been focusing on the brochure that we're doing for St. Charles Visitor Convent, whatever that is. And also on getting the float and the 4th of July parade. I turned in the application, hopefully with some luck from maybe some people on that side of the room, we can get it for free since we're also working with the DAR, and they are nonprofit, and we don't have a whole lot of budget to do this kind of things. I am going to contact different hardware stores asking for donations. We will allow them to place a sign on the float saying they sponsored us. We're looking for not great 2x4s. It don't have to be perfect, as I think Rick said to me, junk. They can't sell it because it's either too knotty or has some chips out of it. It's just rough looking. To frame, to make a corral like on it. we're also going to I'm going to look into getting some chicken wire and tissue paper so that we can have it decorated with the 250th. DAR will have their banner. I don't know if we can come up with some kind of banner that says Historical Preservation Commission, but I'm going to look into that. And that's about it. So any help will be appreciated as far as talking to the hardware stores and seeing if we can get some donations from them. So if you have a contact, let me know.
Do you know what size banner we would need?
I'll have to check to see what DAR does. Just to, yeah.
I'm going to add to that, since that was that was on the end, that kind of thrown in together there. But we did have a rental supply donate a 20-foot trailer for us. So just I want to put that in there. Okay. And eventually I'll do a thank you and stuff like that. Okay. Any questions on the float, please contact Cheryl. Commissioner Rowland. On historic designations, we are having our plaques from the last two homes where they were going to be put on in the next week or two. And then there's two other homes that one of them is the old Obrecht home. It was a Thornhill and Obrecht home there on Sondren. And that property actually years ago, everything's been done on it. It's just never went through the council. And so we need to work toward that and get that pushed toward the council. But I do not know who the old owners are since that building was sold. But everything, all the paperwork has all been done. It just never was because of COVID or deaths within our commission. Things stopped on that one. But that needs to be finished up. And then,
What is the address on that one, Rick? Do you know?
pardon me?
What's the address on that one? Do you know?
I don't have it right
It's
on hand.
Elm and Sondren.
Yeah.
It's right there on the corner.
It's the Obrecht, I think Thornhill Obrecht home. I do have the paperwork at home.
Is it 128 East Elm? Possibly?
Um,
It's okay if you don't
No,
know.
I
I was
don't.
just trying
I
to
have to
cross-reference it to
I'll
the
have to
list.
send it to you.
Okay.
But yeah, I do know everything, all the work's been done. It just never went toward City Hall or to the council there. And the other one that I'll be working on is the Black Schoolhouse, African Schoolhouse there. I have the following. I have all the way back to the school district as far as the deeds, who own that property. I'm waiting for Molly. Molly will be finished up here with school here in a little bit, and then she'll be free probably for the summer to work on this also. So those are the two that we definitely are working on because it takes time and it takes a lot. And then we have quite a few in line actually that we need to work toward. But I do want the Obrecht's already been done, so we just got to finish up on that. I mean, John and Janet want to know more about that, but yeah, but it just never went through the council. Okay,
It is 405 East Elm. I
Okay.
stand corrected. I found it on the list.
thank you. Yeah, so I don't know if you don't have those documents, I'll send those documents to you. I don't remember if I sent those documents already and we needed to look at that.
I'm not sure I have.
I will-
them.
I will
We can
check.
Look, we may
We've-
have them from a while ago because it does show on here completed, but not approved through you all or through the city council.
Okay, so we have to do the approval first too. All right,
Even if we did it at one point in time a number of years ago, we would have to do it
Do it again.
fresh.
okay, okay.
So again, we do the approval, then there's two different readings at the council meetings, right?
Right, exactly. Okay, thank you. Okay. Now we go to the Log Cabin Museum, Commissioner Porter.
All right. Since our last meeting, some of the O'Fallon volunteers and I have done some extensive cleaning of the cabin. We created a catalog and inventory system so we can just enter it into a spreadsheet. We've been using our iPhones to take pictures, but I think we'll need something of better quality when we actually put it into a museum. That's more for identifying purposes. And then we've been transcribing some audio taped interviews from some of the earliest O'Fallon descendants, which is very interesting. I believe we're working on a temporary sign to indicate to the public that the log cabin is not open at this time, but it is a work in progress, that it will hopefully open as a virtual museum. And we are exploring software to create a virtual tour of the museum. Matterport is what real estate agents use to do a virtual tour of a home. And I have a bid for that, even though I know we don't have a budget. I was just kind of curious to see what it would cost. I do have a person with that software who would be willing to donate time and talent, but I don't even know if Matterport is what we're looking for. So I think that's a conversation that we need to have with the communications department. I sent you a couple of samples. It would be so cool because it's interactive. You can actually click into a room, click on an item. We can describe it. We can even create little videos of it. And I think it could be a very cool virtual museum, but we don't know if that software is what we need. Let's see. I've been going twice a week, but in May, for the summer, I'll probably go once a week. And I would really encourage anybody to come and check it out. I want to thank the Parks Department volunteers who've been coming, and Rick and Molly and Commissioner, oh shoot. Well, we thank you for coming. And sorry about that. But let's see, what else do I have to say? I don't have a time when the virtual museum will open. But that's kind of like we got to figure out our software. So I don't really have a time for that. And then I do have a couple questions. Rick had suggested inviting new council members and our new tourism employee to tour the cabin. I think that would be phenomenal. Just let me know when that's going to happen, and I'll make sure it's really ready to go. And then, is there any way we can ask the city to decorate for the 4th of July? I know that the parade goes down Civic Park, and that whole area is closed off, and there's so much foot traffic. I'm not saying we can open it. That would be cool too, but to decorate it would be awesome. So that's a question I have. And let's see. Commissioner Hunt, sorry about that. And I guess that's all I have. Does anybody have any questions?
No, it's a progress. It's just a work in progress. It takes time and a lot of time. I think the virtual museum part of it is that when the program you're talking, the software you're talking about is the very first one you showed. I mean, you sent out what you found. It was it is pretty neat. I don't know the security and what the city has to do with all that, or even if it's comparable, but it's a neat thing. And it's been 4 years, I think, since we've done a tour with the council over there. So it's time to do that again, since almost they're all changed now. It'd be nice for them to see and let them see the history of what we have and let them know what's taking place.
Oh, I'd like to add, I got two new donations. One of them is a 1940s wedding dress from a descendant of the Kreckles, and another one is a River City Rascals jersey. Just somebody on Facebook wanted to donate something. So I do have a form that we're filling out to properly, indicate where it came from and what to do with it if this should never open. I want to make sure everybody gets their stuff back. But just for reference, that quote for the Matterport 3D tour would be $375. I think we can get it cheaper.
Especially since we don't have a budget. And we're kind of nonprofit to start with.
Any questions for Commissioner Porter?
The O'Fallon Community Foundation may be able to help with your software.
That would be awesome.
Kathy, is that a one-time fee, an annual fee? How is that figured?
I'm hoping it's a one-time fee. I'm hoping that they create the virtual tour and then you own it. But that I need to find out.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you, guys. Thank you to everybody. Okay, on the educational brochures, I'll speak. Cheryl and I are working on this gradually. We've already did stage 1 for our grant from the SHPO there. Our next stage is June 26th. We have to have the final text and graphics sent in. And I was really glad to see that it wasn't that close to 4th of July, because that would be really hard working with communications on this. So we will make that. We will make that that deadline, and then the rest of it's the simple part of it. So we're going to make it. It's kind of nice. So we're making 18,000 brochures for education purposes. But with the tourism and visitors, they've been asked to add more. So there's going to be more going into hotels and businesses too. So it's going to be a citywide thing, not just for education. If anybody has any questions as we go, it's going to be pretty nice. You know, we're updating everything that we have. So
I have to make an appointment with Kevin in communications to sit down with them and start putting pictures in.
And John, we have all the pictures. John, you have any separate pictures that we don't have? You have any pictures we don't
I have
have
some pictures.
that we might not have and the city might not have?
Your question is, do I have some
Do you have
pictures
pictures
that the city doesn't
does
have?
not have? Yeah, or do you know?
I don't know if the city has them or not.
Okay, we'll find out.
Can you send them to me, John, so I can?
They are physical pictures,
Oh,
not digital
okay.
pictures.
Um,
But I am the possessor of 3-ring binders full of digital and printed pictures
Right.
that came out of that cabin. I'm not the only one. The County Historical Society also has copies of the binders, does Pat Swinger and Cheryl Hibbler. So I have them, but they're just not high resolution.
okay. We'll have to talk to Kevin in communications and find out what we can do with them.
Yeah, as long as they can get them about this size, I think we can make it. Thank you.
Can I say something real quick? Since Cheryl Hibbler no longer lives in the county, is there any way we can get that binder from her and keep it in?
She gave me her binder.
Oh, okay.
So
you
I
have hers
now have the binder that was hers.
Perfect. I
Pat
just
Swinger
wanted-
also doesn't live in O'Fallon anymore either. So
Yeah, I just wanted to make sure that all stays within the city. Perfect.
yeah, they weren't sure what to do with it. They, I don't know if the city has one of those either, but it was in the cabin and I have them now. Yeah, in the County Historical Society, where most of the artifacts out of the cabin went, I know has a copy of the exact same binders that I have. Yeah.
Great. I just didn't want it to end up somewhere over in St. Louis County and nobody know what it is and then
Right.
it's all gone.
Well, that's true. That's true. I know the city they gave the city a whole list of CDs and they've digitized everything. The city has digitized everything that was on the CDs. And there's 3 copies of those.
Although seeing our little montage right before this meeting started, I saw pictures in that montage that I was curious. I've not seen some of those pictures, so I'm not quite sure where they came from, but I want to know because one of the traffic boxes I have planned is all baseball themed. And I saw a picture of baseball up there and I was like, where'd that picture come from? I've never seen that
Do you
one.
have the digital copies? I'll have to get them to send them to you.
They are not in any of the digital copies or in any of the
Oh,
ring
okay.
liners I've ever seen. So
And they have a personal stash there too.
other baseball pictures that aren't in the montage that are baseball themed that I do have the originals of, but not the one shown in that montage. Yeah.
And Tommy's out here. He's going to be our speaker, and I think they might have some baseball pictures too. I mean, we have to ask him after the meeting there.
John, I have a question. Could I see those binders as well? Because a lot of the pictures that are existing in the log cabin are pretty beat up. They're just photocopies. And from what I understand, when the Historic Society closed, they basically had a garage sale and things got moved and disheveled. And if there's a better copy, I could just at least make a better copy.
Yeah. So they're not the originals, right? They're just photocopies, the binders. And then after, I think every 10 pages is an envelope with the CD of the scans of those pictures. So, this was done 20 plus years ago. So that was back when scanning at 200 DPI was about as good as you were going to get unless you had 4 hours to spend on every photo. So, we do have them. They're fun to go through. They did a great job cataloging them all.
Great. We'll have to connect on that.
Yeah, and you need to go down to St. Charles County Historical Society. They last 3 months ago, I guess last time I was really down there, they had they didn't have the pictures with the stories yet, but it's all gonna be digitized. And then once you are a member, then you can have access to those because the whole public's going to have access to all those pictures. But you can go up there and set up an appointment and go there and Monday, Wednesday, and Thursday, or Monday, Wednesday, and Friday, as long as school's not out, then you can go in there and take a look. Just tell them what you want to do, make an appointment up there. They'll work with you. We have our own little area there where our stuff is. So. And Jason's upstairs, isn't he? No.
I don't think he's in this play, but somebody
Okay.
is upstairs making a lot of ruckus, that's for sure.
Okay, that's our brochures, just where we are. On Sage Chapel, I did get a call from the Stevensons tonight, and they would like to give a story on our next meeting about Sage Chapel. And that's pretty nice. You know, she's going to be 99, he's going to be 101. So I'm pretty excited for them to want to come out and talk about that because I've never really heard their story. That's a great event. That was a great event, and I tell you, the way that all the work that the VFW done out there is beautiful. It's absolutely beautiful how they did all the detail. The city mows the grass, but they did all the detail. They around the graves and the wild honeysuckle growing everywhere, cut it down, and it really looks good and got all the extra leaves out. Like I said, I will get those pictures and send those copies to you, but also post those copies for our records. Okay, our next on is Miss Davies.
Thank you, Rick. I am very pleased to mention that we have our new council liaison here tonight with us. It's Councilmember Link. But before I let them speak, I wanted to briefly mention Councilmember Cook and thank her for her contributions to our commission over the past year. It's been great working with her on the commission. I obviously work with her on the council as well, but we really appreciate having you here tonight with us and over the past year. Councilmember Cook, and welcome to Councilmember Link. And I think they both would like to say a few words.
I just want to say I have really enjoyed this past year being on here. I have learned so much. I loved when the sister was here and gave the entire history of the building next door and the school and just all of it. It was just, I've been here in O'Fallon since 2004. So I'm not an old person that's been around a long time, but still I loved hearing the history. So I think Doug is going to enjoy being on the council and just learning the history. It's so fascinating. So, but thank you for being so welcoming. I've really enjoyed my year here.
I want to say thank you, Ms. Cook, for your work you did and also helping us save a building from being destroyed. You know, that you got right in there and you worked real hard and we saved a building and new owners came in and fixed it up. So thank you for your work that you've done. And I'm glad to see, I've seen you around. You're my alderman, you're my councilwoman, and it's like, but it was so nice to have you on this. And so you see what I said. And like you said, the sisters, there's a 4-part story of the sisters that nobody's ever seen before because the sisters shared all their information from their 28 states to 4 countries. So we had their legacy preserved that we could share with the other parishes through the years. So I want to thank you so much.
Well, thank you. I really enjoyed it. Thank you.
I guess building off that note, I'm really excited to be on this commission. Yeah, you know, whenever we change the council over, we get our choice. And so this is one of my top choices. I'm very happy to be here. Looking forward to working with you all and learning about O'Fallon's history.
Thank you, Councilman Link. Really glad to have you here. And I'm glad you chose this because we do have fun.
We're the best one.
we
Just-
have
no
fun.
doubt.
So you know.
We have fun. You're going to have fun. We'll get you up to speed too. Thank you.
Thank you. I appreciate that. I'm looking forward to the log cabin.
Thank you.
I did fail to mention, because I did not take good notes, I also wanted to mention that our own Councilmember Cook was elected as our new president pro tem of the City Council. I'd like to think it's because of her work here on the Historic Preservation Commission. So congratulations to her as well for that honor.
We're the path to glory.
Congratulations. Yes.
And I think it's me again.
It's you again.
So reappointment of commissioners at the last city council meeting, Mayor Hennessy did appoint the following candidates commissioners back onto the commission. So Don Dietrich is a commission member at large for Ward 5, and he will be with us until April of 2029. Congratulations, Don. Mary Porter, I say Mary. I even had to ask. I said, is her real name Mary? I'm known her by Kathy. So Mary Kathy Porter, a non-voting commission member with a term expiring April of 2029. And then Cheryl Rowland, a non-voting commission member for Ward 4 with a term expiring April 2029. Thank you all for wanting to continue on our little commission here.
Thank you, guys. Really. Thank you for coming back and staying with us and making this a great place to be. With that, we're going to start out. We need elections for chairperson and assistant chair.
I nominate Rick.
I second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
See that?
Aye.
Aye.
Well, thank you. Okay. I guess I am. Thank you. What about second, John?
Am I currently the second?
You're the second, yeah.
Oh, okay.
You're assistant chair. Then I'll make a nomination.
I nominate John.
Yeah. All in favor?
Aye.
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 Okay, that was very easy. Thank you, guys. You know, really, I have an agenda, and I really want to finish before my term's up. You know, I really do. I mean, I would probably stay on, but I just have this agenda that I really want to get done.
You're not allowed to make campaign speeches after you've already been elected.
No.
That's a rule.
Okay. With that,
Thank you, Rick and John. Appreciate your service. Thank you.
thank you. Okay, with that, our presentation tonight is O'Fallon history through the lens of the paperboy. And so that we'll have Tom Genever Jr. please come up, and your brother can come up with you, or you can just sit and pat you on the back.
I told him he had to sit here and shut up.
I have my own stories that he doesn't care for.
And also, this is Tom Genever III, my son.
Welcome.
And you can tell he's no youngster either. You know, my wife and I, we've just noticed in the last few years, it makes no difference where we go or what we're doing, whether we're going to church or going to the restaurant, that we're the oldest ones in the room. and it's an odd place to be. But if you're looking for memories from the old days of O'Fallon, we have them. Joe comes to my house. We live just a couple miles apart. And he comes over several mornings every week, and we talk about the old times. And it's so nice to have somebody that remembers, even though his memory isn't as good as mine. But we do that every day. I also was sitting here. I haven't seen Don Dietrich for a while. He and I and my young son's Tom's daughter were in the pageant that we had at the Stetswick Centennial. Yeah. And I did recognize you, but just barely. I can tell you, just one of the memories I have a long time ago, I remember when his mom and dad got married. And I can remember my mom saying that's the most loving couple she had ever seen. So,
Nice thing.
true story. Rick asked me if I was the guy that had the old Thunderbird. Oh, well, I am. We grew up, Joe and I, our house is where the Rendezvous restaurant is now. Dad built that in 1954. And on weekends, I used to sit on that front porch and stare across the street at this brand new 55 Thunderbird. It was robin egg blue. And my mom used to say, Tommy, if you work hard someday, you can have one of those. And I used to go over and the guy said, you can touch it. And well, a car just like that sitting in my garage right now. So let me try and start and talk about what used to be here that isn't anymore, since you're in the preservation business. And I don't know if the big white house, if that's the Krekel House, is that what they call it? It's I don't think that we ever heard the name Krekel when we were kids. But Grandma Westhoff lived there, and everybody knew her, and she had like 6 or 7 kids that dispersed themselves out around town, and so everybody was kind of related back then. And my mom's best friend, Marie Oberndorfer, was one of the Westhoff daughters, and her kids were some of our best friends. But just almost opposite there, in the opposite corner from where that's at. Well, wait, on that same side of the street, if you cross Mary Street, that next house there is a Sears and Roebuck house. I don't know if you ever knew that Sears and Roebuck was in the business, but that's one of them right there. On the opposite corner where the A.G. Edwards is now, that used to be the Westhoff Power Plant. Now, I don't remember when we had DC power in town, but I do remember watching the big flywheel turn on that thing. So it was doing something when I was a kid. And I also know that the whole town was converted to AC power sometime after that. And in 1956, we had a severe ice storm came through, and half a dozen buildings on Main Street caught on fire and nearly burned down. As a matter of fact, Gunneman's store, I'll talk about that in a minute, where it was. It burned down, was never resurrected. Keithley's funeral home burned. My dad's business burned. The elevator burned, and it was all due to bad grounds from the old DC wiring, and somehow the ice storm triggered that whole thing. Anyhow, if you come up past the flywheel, the next building, Westhoff store, which is still there, and it might be a part of the preservation, I don't know. But some of my earliest memories, I remember when Joe, he was probably 3 years old, there was a big barrel full of peanuts. And Joe took one of those peanuts and peeled it and ate it. And I said, Joe, you're stealing. You can't steal those peanuts. And Virginia Westhoff says, they're only peanuts, Tommy. He can have those. And for the next 70 years, Joe was like her stepson. Just anytime she needed anything, she and Pee Wee had no children. And so she kind of adopted Joe to do things for her. And it was like that until she died. And if you go up the street where the bank is now, there was at least 4 or 5 businesses in there. If you go to the opposite corner up where Elm Street comes off, there was the bank OFallon, then Gunneman's store, then the post office. Still had hitching posts. When we were kids, they were hitching. And as a matter of fact, there was even horses hooked up to them sometimes. I remember when I was an altar boy, Father Dearman would let us go out and pet the horses during the sermon. It was, and I'm not sure that I would have been about 10 or 11 years old then too. I became a paperboy when I was 11, and I remember seeing a sign every morning said O'Fallon, population 789. And I was always kind of proud of that because we were bigger than everybody else. The St. Paul was littler, St. Peter's was little. The only one that was larger anywhere around was Wentzville. And my dad says, we'll be bigger than them someday. And I think they're trying to catch us again now, but I never in my wildest imagination would have ever thought that we would have 100,000 people here. Anyhow, if you keep going past Elm Street, past there was Lee Fearling had a meat market. And I just barely remember that. I was awfully young. And eventually Ivan Phillips and Bill Arf built an IGA store there. And I'm not real sure, that would have been in the early 50s, maybe, something like that. Trying to figure out, because I could talk for a long, long time if I wasn't careful here. Let me go up and cross the street where the Bank of America is now. There was at least 4 or 5 houses that used to be in there too. And we lived in one of those when my twin sister and I were maybe 2 years old. I can remember we were kicking clots where the guys were digging sewers. O'Fallon was just getting their sewers put in. Now I was born in 43, so this would have been like 1945. And we were kicking dirt clods on top of the guys, and because they were way down in the hole, and they dug those sewers all by hand back then. And I remember my uncle, Paul Westhoff, he was married to my mom's sister. He was saying that the city had $50 in the bank when they put that project out to have sewers. And at that time, there was really only 2 water towers in town. There was the one at the convent and the one close to. Do you still live there, Don? Okay. And those are the only 2 water towers in town at the time. Then if you go on the other side of the street across from Westhoff store was the old Westhoff house that I don't know. I don't remember any of them ever living in that house because there were living quarters over top of the Westhoff store. And that's where Pee Wee and Virginia lived that I remember. The house across the street was eventually torn down, and I think that house is still there. And Pee Wee and Virginia moved into that house. And Virginia, every morning, she had her money sacked under her arm going across. She always, we clean out the cash register and take the money home with her. And she got hit by a car. And I'd like to never recover from that. And it wasn't too long after that they sold the store. And I have a picture here of what my dad's place looked like when he bought it. First off, he had a moniker that when he first started in business, it said since 1927. Well, he would have been 14 years old in 1927, so I think he was stretching a little bit. But in 1938, he bought this building, which is where the Rendezvous Restaurant is now. And it's an old Sinclair filling station. And just a few years ago, somebody came after me wanting to know if those gas tanks were ever removed that was in there. And I said, I don't ever remember there being gas tanks there. And I don't know where that went, but if they were there, they're under the street now. But in 1954, we built what ended up being our house on one side and the shop on the other side. And you can still, if you look at it, you can still see the old filling station. And okay, I don't know where to go from there. The right next door, Joe was saying there used to be a house next door that's not there anymore. But there also was a storefront that was never occupied that I remember. And then there was the CJ Harris Lumber Company. And I remember the volunteer fire department, every time the fire alarm would go off, Adolph Haas would go running down the street from CJ Harris Lumber Company, and Ivan Phillips would take off from the IGA store. And I was convinced they were trying to see who got there first so they could drive the fire truck. and that 41 GMC, they still have that fire truck, I believe. And I can remember it would cough and sput and everything getting them. And it was a big deal to have a fire back then. And it seems like we did it frequently. And when the fall came, you could smell leaves burning everywhere because everybody would rake the leaves out in the gutters. Those are, I want to mention that Sondren Street, back in the old days, was nothing but a dirt road. You couldn't even drive on it. And it's where the black people in town lived. And one of the black people was a guy named Slick Thomas. And he had a brother, Frank, who played in the Negro League baseball league. But Slick weighed 600 pounds. He was just an enormous guy. And Joe and I were putting an air conditioner in down on Elm Street one day. And Charlie Callahan came over, or got work for him, came over and said, can you help me get a body out of the back of the hearse? And lo and behold, it was Slick. And he had lost 200 pounds, but he still weighed 400 pounds. And we would, where Elm Street is, if you know, I don't know what's in there where the firehouse used to be, but that is the old Civic Park. When you talk about O'Fallon Civic Park, that was it. And where the Civic Park is today was the church picnic grounds, Assumption Church. and Assumption gave it to the town many, many years ago. But my grandpa's house, where my mom was raised, was right across the street from that firehouse. And I think it's a big blue building now. It was originally meant to be a funeral parlor, and it went broke before they got there. Didn't have enough people dying, I guess. And it was just about the only house in town that had a sewer system. It had a septic system in it. And Mom said the girls would come home on the way home from school to stop at her house to use the potty because they had indoor plumbing. And all the rest of the town was outdoor plumbing. Even at Assumption Grade School, we didn't have indoor plumbing until I was in the 4th grade. So we just had a multi-tenant potty out back. Yeah. Joe, what am I missing that's important?
Oh, when there was a fire, they'd have to call bus stop store, and bus stop store would go up in the attic and pull the switch. To set the siren off. That was the only siren that's out on top of the building.
I remember also they did not have an automatic bell ringer at the Assumption Church. A little guy named Himmelsbach lived right next door, and he was kind of crippled. He was like the Hunchback of Notre Dame, and he would get it and pull that rope and get the thing to ring, and he would ride it up and down. You could see it, there was 2 or 3 feet under when he would do it. And it wasn't until Father Derman got there that they decided we really ought to put an automatic bell ringer in there. And then
How many people did you deliver papers to?
I delivered 61 Globe Democrats in the morning and 62 Post-Dispatch in the afternoon, and many of those were the same people. And I remember Milford Lambertson, who worked for Keithley, he wouldn't get the Post or the Globe Democrat because he didn't like anything that had Democrat on it. But he was the only one that objected to that. And but I did that on my bicycle for a couple of years, and I get out there at 4 o'clock in the morning when it was 10 below zero. And I remember I saved some of my money and bought a pocket warmer, and you put lighter fluid in it and then blow it out, and you put it in your pocket. And that works fine unless you're riding on top of a bicycle and the lighter fluid gets out. And it didn't catch me on fire, but it burned me pretty bad.
Yeah.
And I had to stand up in the back of the classroom for the next 2 weeks after that. But I learned that it's better to have cold hands than to have a burned hiney.
How about the mail train? Mail train.
Oh yeah, it's the train. Yeah, the train would bring the mail every day, and Louis Bussinger, which is another name that some of you might know, he invented a hook to grab the mail off of the train when it went by because the train did not stop, and that thing, it would grab that, and every once in a while it didn't catch it, and it would fall off, and the hill mail would go everywhere, and we'd go across the street and help pick that up. Also, where the elevator was, just down from there, they had oil tanks or tar tanks with an old thrash machine attached to it that they would fire this thing up to heat up the tar, and they'd fill up the trucks and go out. And there was no such thing as hot applied asphalt. Main Street was, they would put chat gravel down and put tar on top of that. And they had to do that a couple times a year. And Highway K, from where a Veterans Memorial is now, that was all gravel until 1954. And then going the other way from going north on Main Street where Tongenever Avenue is, everything north from there was gravel. And I can remember I used to ride my bicycle out on that gravel road when I was a kid. And there were people from O'Fallon that would walk all the way to Mallinckrodt to go to work, which is probably 8 or 9 miles. They would walk from O'Fallon all the way out to the Bush Wildlife area in there to go to work. So they were probably walking 4 or 5 hours a day.
How about the first policeman on
The first what?
policeman? Obrecht.
Well, he wasn't the first one.
Okay, what was the first?
Prinster, what was his name? Yeah, he had a 51 Mercury.
I thought that was over.
No. He had a 58 Ford.
Yeah.
What was his name?
Wilson was a 58 Ford, Rich Wilson.
Yeah, no, Prinster had a 51 Mercury. It had a 255 cubic inch engine in it, and it was faster than the flathead Fords. So they thought he could catch the people better with that thing.
That story is going.
And the first police car that O'Fallon had was a leftover car that came from the county. It was a 57 Ford. Had just a single red light in the middle of the thing. And Rich Wilson was our marshal at that time. His wife had a beauty shop down on Elm Street. And I think that car probably had a couple 100,000 miles on it before O'Fallon got it. In 1960, they bought two police cars. There was a Mercury and a Ford, full-size cars. And I don't know if Joe helped or not, but I put the red lights on those cars and installed the radios in them. And so all of a sudden, O'Fallon was big time.
We put all the radios stuff in all of them. Fire truck.
Okay.
How about the old fire truck? They had the old Model A fire truck. Found
My uncle Paul Westhoff was the mayor for 17 years, and he had that old Model A fire truck behind his house. There was a pond back there, and Sonny Westhoff, Paul Jr., he would get out there and start that thing, and we would ride that thing around and around the pond back there. And I remember I was sitting on one of the fenders, and the fender was cracked, and it pinched me, and I got a blood blister from the thing. And all of a sudden, his dad says, "We ain't going to do that anymore." He didn't know they were doing it to start with. And also, that land they lived right at the top, where Assumption Church is, all the way to the top of the hill. Paul Westhoff owned all that property, and they had some cattle over there. I remember seeing that when I was a kid. Johnny Westhoff, the youngest son, he had a pony, and he would go down and aggravate the cows, and then the cows would chase him all over the thing. And then, but Paul subdivided it, when they put 4 houses down through there. And I get Mom's old house, the brick house is still there. That house was originally built by Forbeck, the barber shop. I remember we lived across the street when they built that house, and I remember watching them do it. And George Forbeck was his name. And I remember Kenny and Margie out there fighting over the thing. They were throwing clods at each other when they were building the house, and not knowing that someday my mom and dad would live in that house. But anyhow, George and my grandpa traded houses. That house on Elm Street became George Forbeck's house, and the brick house became my grandpa's. And when Grandpa died, Mom and Dad bought that house. So, and it's still there.
Thompson used to have an orchard over there. The best apples and peaches, but they didn't want to share.
Yeah.
So we made, because of Mike Stroud and I, we made many a journey into there to bring back, freeze a few apples. That's back.
We also had an old black guy in town that we called Grandpa Stewart. And I mean, he looked like Uncle Remus with a beard and everything. And we had an alfalfa field behind our house where we lived. And he would let Joe and I get up on the buckboard with him to get the bunnies out of the way when he was cultivating back there. And Joe just loved those horses. And he'd say, "Joey, see that horse? I'm going to give you that horse." And Joe, anytime he'd get upset, he says, "I'm going to run away and go live with Grandpa Stewart." Well, the name wasn't Grandpa; it was Granville Stewart. we thought it was Grandpa. And he's buried in the black cemetery that's up there by the VFW. Across the street where Ethel's is, Gene Reed used to own that. And I remember when I was an altar boy, I went with Father German to give Gene the last rites when they lived there, with no idea that someday it would be the thing it is today. And the Eisenbath family that owns that now, their mom was a Schaefer, and her mom was a Westhoff, and it was one of Grandma Westhoff's kids. So that family is spread everywhere. And then Bert and Jim's Tavern, that was Jim was Bert's brother-in-law, and on that side, I started talking about the fact that we had the Westhoff store. Howard Mart had a sporting goods store there, and then Cotton's. And it was one of the oldest taverns in town, and George Forbeck owned that before he did, and I don't know how that transition was made. But you had Cotton's Tavern, Bert and Jim's Tavern, and then Chuck and Dale's across the street. And there was, when come 5 o'clock in the afternoon, you could find everybody in town was in one of those 3 bars. That was a social thing. And I think the most activity that was ever in the town was the elevator. The grain elevator was a co-op, and almost everybody was a farmer. And we used to go down there and watch the lift that would lift the trucks up and tilt them off the back. And we used to gather soybeans that would spill off the thing and use them in our pea shooters. And then Griesnar's garage, back in the old days, the cars all had inner tubes. And so they were always patching inner tubes, and they had this hot patch that you could smell. It was very pronouncing, and you could be a block away when you're going to Griesnar's garage. Also, Griesnar's garage was started by my grandfather and his 2 brothers, Ed and Ben. And Uncle Ben and his wife Mary both died on the same day from the Spanish flu in 1918. And if you go to the Assumption Cemetery, there's a whole section here full of people that died in 1918. And there's even a couple other Griesnars in there besides that.
I have a question.
Yeah.
Was the railroad still working? I heard it was still working up till the 70s, so they never really stopped in O'Fallon at a certain time?
I don't think they ever stopped in O'Fallon.
Okay.
Not that I recall. I do. I take that back. I do remember. Well, I remember going to Montgomery City to visit one of Mom's friends, and we got on the train in O'Fallon, but I don't ever remember stopping any other time.
Okay. I've heard that like in the 70s it stopped, and I remember somebody saying that it was one of the last times they went on it. But we've had 2. We had 2 different stops at one time. So I was just curious when I guess toward the 1900s, they kind of stopped. Because I know at one time there was, it probably might be before you, we had the short rail too. So I didn't know how that worked. If you know anything about that, how the short rail, we went from O'Fallon maybe up to Gilmore to catch the short rail, and the short rail went down Highway N and went down DD and up to Hannibal, and I don't know. I just had that. I just was thinking of that about how the railroad actually worked out of here.
I know there was a lot more railroad traffic back then than there is today. There were many times when cars would be backed up for miles while the railroad was getting cars to go through there, and they were all steam engines. There were no diesels back then, and and there's usually, if they had a long train somewhere, one of the cars would have a hot box on it somewhere, and you could see flames coming out from underneath there. But they're doing 80 miles an hour with all those millions of tons back, so they couldn't just stop. And when they did, sometimes it would burn out the rail cars, and we'd see them do that right from where we lived.
Sit by the tracks, the caboose would be at the end, we'd yell which car had a hot box on it. So, there's always somebody hanging off the back of the caboose, we wave at them.
I can remember we lived in a house that was owned by Ward Bellow, like Bellow Creek. And I remember he and I were standing out waiting for President Truman to go by on the back end of a railroad car. And and he was back there waving at all of us. And Ward looked at me and says, "Someday you'll remember this, little boy," because I was just a youngster then. But they had parade routes that where the trains would slow up and every time they went through a town and let the president wave at everybody.
I remember when he passed away, and it was a big thing because I grew up in St. Charles, where we went down the Elm Point and watched his funeral train come through, and it came through here. And I've asked a lot of people if there was any pictures here of O'Fallon when that went through O'Fallon, because I did go through O'Fallon, and nobody seemed to have any pictures of that. But I remember that when his funeral train came through and it went through all the towns in Missouri along Wabash. It was pretty neat. I remember that as a kid. But he was very active. Truman was very active. I think there's even a picture, maybe him driving through O'Fallon somewhere. I've never found that picture. I've seen it once. I've never found it again. He was coming down Woodlawn.
Well, he was dearly loved in Missouri. There's no question about that.
Yeah.
It's funny, they tell stories about when he and Bess left the White House, they drove back to Independence in the car all by themselves, and no Secret Service or anything. When his time was up, he just left.
He did. And not a rich man either.
Yeah.
I was trying to figure out when to interject. There is information in the log cabin. There's documentation of when O'Fallon quit selling passenger tickets.
Okay.
There's some paperwork that they had, the rail authority, they had to send back the inventory, and there's receipts. It's really cool, but it was in the 1960s.
Okay. Thank you for that. Yeah. Having two depots, you think, okay, what do you need two depots for?
I remember Glenn Samick ran the train station there, and if you needed to send a telex anywhere, you had to go there and do it. And he would do it and my dad, something I ought to talk about is how my dad ended up in O'Fallon. He started off with a business in Wentzville selling wind chargers. These rural farmers had no electricity, and he was selling these little windmills that would charge a battery, and the battery would that would power a radio where they could listen to a radio. And as a consequence, he ended up getting in the radio business also with the wind chargers. And since they were all farmers, a lot of them had milk cows, and he got into the dairy refrigeration business at the same time. And it turned into a pretty good sized business. But then he moved to O'Fallon and bought this, the old filling station there on Main Street. And the electronics side of the business was really interesting. When I finally left and did something else, it was pretty obvious that electronics was not the future I wanted to tie into, because the Asian countries were taking over electronics and practically giving it away. And I look at all the video monitors you got here. My dad would have a heart attack if he saw all that. Because we had the very first TV in St. Charles County in our house, and I remember Dad made an antenna out of Mom's clothesline poles, and he sat there with a physics book and figured out how long the wire he needed for a folded dipole antenna, and then he strapped it onto the chimney of the house. But there was no TV station. All we had was a test pattern with an Indian there humming at us for a couple of months. And then we only had maybe an hour and a half, 2 hours of broadcast when it finally came on. That was 1947.
Oh.
And it was only Channel 5 then.
We used to put a projected TV at the front of our shop and put chairs on Friday nights for the fights. He put chairs outside. He had a speaker out there, and he'd turn the fights on, and the guys would come with their drinks and their cigarettes. They'd sit out there and watch the fights. And when the fights were over, we'd go up, turn the TV off, and put the chairs back inside. We did that every Friday night.
Well,
Where's the TV? Kind of unusual.
we used to have it. We used to have another 15 feet in front of the place till they widened Main Street. Up until that point, you could have a couple rows of cars sitting out there. And yeah, they used to have Stag Beer always had a thing where if you tore the label off and it had some kind of number inside, you could win a free 12-pack of beer or something like that.
I didn't know that.
Well, I wouldn't either if we hadn't been watching it on the TV. But yeah, it was a projection television. And this is going way back. I mean, this is in the early 50s. It had a 3-inch picture tube that projected up into 3-foot by 4-foot screen. And where the garage doors used to be on the filling station, he put windows in there and set up where people could sit in front of there with their lawn chairs and watch the fights.
That's nice. That's nice.
And I remember that the TV that we watched the Humming Indian on was a 7-inch Philco, black and white, and it cost $328 in 1947. Now, I don't know what that would be today, but it'd be 10, 20,000 probably for a TV that only worked for an hour and a half a day.
We had the first color TV too. We had one room set up as a shop, one program on a week, for half hour, an hour. And we'd have maybe 30 people in this one room trying to see around Dad as Dad's adjusting the colors on it. Can see what a color TV looked like. But one program a week.
Well, Bonanza was probably the first long time color program. And, but, you know, growing up in that business, I look back and think the complexity of a color television, the fact that they worked at all was amazing. Just absolutely incredible. All the things that had to come together to put a picture up. Today, with these flat screens and everything solid state, they have machines stamp it all. There's nothing, somebody pretty smart designs it, but that's where it ends. I don't think there is such a thing as a TV repair shop anymore because they just don't do that. You just throw them away and get another one.
Right. And Tom, that's what the shop was, right? That's where your dad repaired TVs. Is that the primary nature of the business?
You know, he was such a multi-talented guy. Anything you could make money at, he would do it. We got pretty big in the dairy refrigeration too. We were selling milk tanks all over the county, and but TV and appliances and air conditioning. Now, that's what I ultimately ended up doing. I went to work for the Trane Air Conditioning Company because I could see that business growing by leaps and bounds because people were finding that they could live in Texas and not die from the heat anymore. And so all of a sudden, air conditioners are going everywhere. And when I went to work for Trane in 1976, and now Trane was one of the largest air conditioning companies in the world at that time, and they had just done $480 million worth of business. Last year, they did $14 billion worth of business. So it's grown that much since then.
I remember your dad being such a talented man and being able to fix anything at all. And
it was hard being raised by a person like that.
I'll bet it was. But at one time he came over to our house and the stove wasn't working. And he came over in the evening time. It must have been 8 or 9 o'clock at night. And he had his tool belt out and he was working on it and he fixed the thing. Well, he must have had parts with him. I don't recall. I was a little kid, but I do remember this. As much as he liked to make money, and he made a bunch of money, he was happy with my mom's apple pie.
You know,
and he fixed that stove for a piece of apple pie that night. That was all that he asked for. I thought that was pretty amazing.
You know, when he was in the service, he was in charge of the radio station in Manila, and back then he was in the Signal Corps. So most everything was done with Morse code and semaphore and all that stuff. And Morse code was like another language to him. He could rattle off Morse code just like he could speak it or something. But that's where there weren't very many of those people that knew anything about radios. Plus, the soldiers needed to be able to work on power generators to power the radio. So they had these little single-cylinder motors. So he taught them mechanics too. And I remember he had a single-cylinder motor underneath his workbench when I was 5 years old, probably. And I said, "What's that motor for?" And he said, "It's waiting for you to ask." And I said, "What is it?" It was off of a Maytag washing machine. Because back then, when people didn't have electricity, that's how they washed clothes. And we took that all apart, and he showed me how a magneto worked and how the valves open and closed and compressed it. And I still remember that today. I mean, and he said, "Don't ever be afraid to try something. You can always come to me and I'll help you." Well, the interesting thing is I didn't have to because I had the confidence in knowing that I had a backup in case something went wrong. So And that's why I have an old Thunderbird in my garage. So,
Hey, Tom,
Yeah.
you and I spoke not too long ago. Can you tell us how the street Tom Ginnever got named after your family?
uh, if you ask 10 people, you might get 10 different answers. But the reality is George Mussman was the mayor at the time, and George Mussman was real big in the Boy Scouts, and so was my dad. And that was a very unselfish thing that Dad did. He had Boy Scouts for years and years, and he lost his dad when he was 12 years old. And the most dominant male figure in his life was his scoutmaster. And he thought that every kid should learn survival skills when they're young. And George Mussman, he had the, it's terrible to say how it was split, but you had the Catholic boys and the non-Catholic boys, and there were two different troops. And George had the non-Catholic, and Dad had the Catholic boys, and they became good friends. And I think had it not been for that, I don't think they would have done that. On the other hand, Ed Griesner was one of his Boy Scouts, and he became the mayor also. Most of those guys, as a matter, I think I might have a picture in here of his Boy Scout troop. It's
Did your dad work for the city at one point?
you
Somehow, the highway got the off-ramp from the new highway.
know, when they were building the service roads and everything for Interstate 70, you probably know that the oldest part of the interstate system is right out here on Interstate 70. Well, they were using hot applied asphalt to do all the shoulders and everything, and that machine broke down. And Don Medley was a state trooper, knew Dad real well, and he says, "I'll bet Tommy Ginnever can fix that." And so he got on the radio and called the people at the State Highway Patrol, and they called Dad and says, "Can you go see if you can make that thing work?" And it took him about 15 minutes. It was an electronic problem, and he says, "I don't know how I'm going to charge you for this." And they said, "You can charge us whatever you want, because this machine costs us $1,000 an hour when it's not working."
What I was talking about is when they were gonna bypass O'Fallon with the highway because there wasn't enough people in town.
Well, you might tell a story I don't know then.
Okay, they're gonna bypass O'Fallon with the new highway, not enough people in town. And Dad went, to Jeff City to find out what would happen, what we have to do to get an exit and entrance ramp. They said you had to have a reason to get off. And so then said, what would be a reason? He said, how about a bus station? And so if you see old pictures of back in the 70s or 60s, I guess it would have been, you'll see a bus station sign hanging in front of our shop, and we never sold a ticket. And then he was not happy with the entrance to the highway, because he said every car he's got could hit 55 or 60 mile an hour again, they're ramping here, getting traffic at 70, so they made the ramp longer. So, but they got to take a petition up to Jeff City to get the ramp, or you wouldn't have got off O'Fallon. There wasn't enough people. And we used to go, we watched it when they were building that highway. We lived where the rendezvous is then, and I was 13 years old, and I was trying to get on the basketball team, and so he would take me, bounce that ball all the way up to the highway and back there every night. That's how I got good at bouncing the ball. Never could shoot.
I never heard that story before.
Oh, you told it to me.
I do remember, I remember going to Jeff City. Connie and I had a twin sister who passed away a couple years ago. And Dad wanted us to be exposed to the government. And Dad and Clarence Cleschety and several other people all piled up in his station wagon and went to Jeff City. But that was to get a bus stop in O'Fallon, wasn't a highway thing, it was a bus stop. Is that what you
My
were saying?
story's better. That's the only reason they stopped. There was not going to be an exit or an entrance on. They're just going to bypass O'Fallon.
Well,
Why would we want a bus stop?
I don't know that ever went over. But most people who want to get on a bus would go to Wentzville and get on a bus.
Okay, another story. Anybody got any questions? So
Yeah,
this is-
anybody
I've been
have
on a
any-
lot of committees. We're talking too much. So would anybody any questions about any parts of town? No?
I liked your story. I want to thank you, Tom. Thank you, Joe, for coming in here and giving us a.
No, here, I have a picture of Dad's Boy Scout troop. And let me just throw some names out that you might recognize. There's Phil Hibbler, Jim Griesnauer, Jerry Dames, Red Molitor, Joe Pieper, Scratchy Hibbler, Jerry Dames, Paul Westhoff Jr., Denny Murray, Ted Molitor, Jerry Westhoff, my cousin, Eddie Griesnauer. Some of these guys should know their names.
Dad was the first active Boy Scout leader. One of the guys started the troop, but Dad took it over before they actually a troop. And my mother was the first Girl Scout leader. So, and my mother also started, her and Lynn Arth started the first library in O'Fallon.
Yeah, they went around,
Go around to people and
they collected books all over town.
yeah,
And
and
it,
then, Bussinger, she was the one who took care of the book. What was Bussinger? What's her name? But anyhow, she worked for the for the library for like 50 years. When they say-
Yeah, that was Pat Swinger's mom, right?
Madeline Bussinger.
Yeah.
Yep.
yeah, I remember when they first blacktop Highway K, Dad had a brand new 54 Ford ranch wagon that was light blue. And when he came in, it was up to the windows. It was black. And I spent the next 3 days with kerosene and gasoline getting that off there. And he kept bragging how he got a free undercoat. He didn't talk about how he was killing his son doing this.
We used to play baseball on Main Street every night. It was the only paved road in town. And so we played Indian ball or take catch or whatever. That was the.
We got our cars coming, and everybody was. Yeah.
And in the old days, we talk about the horses in town and hitching posts. You could tell when somebody was going to be spending the whole day in the tavern or just stopping for one beer. If it was one beer, they'd tie up out front to the hitching post. If it was all day, they tie up the horses in the shade out back.
Plus, I remember
Tell how long they're gonna be there.
when I was delivering papers early in the morning when the sun was just coming up, you could hear roosters crowing all over town because everybody had chickens. And some of them had rabbits too. They didn't crow.
Okay. Long meeting.
Thank you.
Thank you,
Thank you
Tom.
very much.
Okay.
Thank you.
Thank you. Diabetic, I just die of thirst if I don't have something.
Thank you very much. I really enjoyed your story, the history, the stories. You know, remind me of that last time I actually sat down with you. I think it was at the Historical Society. We had that outside picnic, you know, and we all told stories, and that was really a good time. And that's the last time I actually seen you. And thank you.
Mary Stevens, that couple there from St. Charles, they have more history of O'Fallon. I started talking about the Civic Park ground, and her family was down that way, and I talked about Grandpa Stewart. She goes, "Oh, that mean old man." I said, "No, I liked him. He always going to give you hearts." Oh, he was a mean old man. Nobody liked him. But we had different years. But,
Right.
He had smoothed out by the time I got to him. But, okay, thank you.
Thank you. Good times. Thank you very much. Anybody have anything to say? Anything we didn't?
We need to sit down with these gentlemen and tape them
Okay.
with all their stories because unfortunately, they'll die with them. And we don't need to lose that history.
We're actually on some of we're both old members of the Historical Society. Our mother was one of the first ones that started the Historical Society a few years back. But at one of our Christmas parties, Patty Swinger went around and we taped everybody, all the old people in town we got in. And so that's probably on something that we have we taped a lot of stuff and recorded a lot of stuff with the Historical Society.
Well, I'm talking just maybe a Sunday afternoon, just letting you guys go loose with whatever comes out of your head. And we can edit it. So, but
Okay. I have one that just to tease you a little bit. When Keithley's burned, we were down there and we're sweeping water out the back door, and all of a sudden money starts coming by. Oh man, Keithley had a cigar box in the wall and we hit it with a hose and blew it out. And I'm out of it. He's out there. We were sweeping water out and we go into the display parlor, and there's a lady sitting up in her casket.
Sitting up.
Sitting up, yeah. Scared a lot of people. She said she died when she was sitting up and it got hot. She said,
Now, E.A. Keithley was one of the former mayors. He owned the Bank of O'Fallon. He was just.
and for your information also, because now that I have to drive on Elm, it's Ozark Assemblies, and they are a wire harness company that's in the old firehouse, I believe.
oh, that's what it is? Okay. Very good.
All right, ready?
Elm Street, that used to be the main drag that tied into Boone's Lake before the highway, when Highway 40 was built, which is, I don't know if it's Veterans Memorial the whole way now, but used to be Highway 40. Our grandfather was the Standard Oil distributor that sold them the gas for all that equipment that did that stuff. And that's when he left Grishner's garage and went into business as a distributor.
Then Jimmy Hunt bought it from him.
Okay. Thank you, everybody, and good night.
Wait,
Oop,
wait.
Go.
We have item number 5. I know you already talked about it. Was there anything else you need to add since it's officially on the agenda here at?
Sufficient on the agenda, so we have a float that donated.
And okay, any other information that we need to?
Put on there. Cheryl was working out other donations.
Is
and
that
then-
something?
And I actually pick it up the third, the float the third, so the second. So I pick it up the trailer the second. So we'll have it the second and the third, and then be ready for the fourth. I have to have it back on the 6th.
And I'll be looking for volunteers to help decorate.
Okay.
So, because I'm hoping to get the chicken wire and get all of that before we get it. And then we just have to staple it up to the 2x4s.
Okay. Any other items that may arise? I think we have it all. Thank you, everybody, for being here. Welcome. Thank you. Thank you for being here and through your past year. Councilman Cook. All right. Good night, everybody.